Welcome to ConciergeQ Conversations with Chantal Westerman.
Hello, I'm Chantal Westerman, and welcome to ConciergeQ, the online travel magazine where you'll find the best travel information and all you want to know about wherever you're going. And one of the ways we do that is right here with ConciergeQ Conversations. ConciergeQ Conversations are intimate travel portraits with fascinating people from all around the world. And we like to think of them as, well, let's just say local travel experts in the know. So please remember, you can always follow along with us at ConciergeQ.com. Today, we're talking to LA filmmaker and actor Shiloh Strong, who you might remember, of course, remember, for his 7 seasons on the hit ABC teen sitcom Boy Meets World. He played Shawn Hunter. After that show wrapped in 2000, Shiloh pursued his education, graduating magna cum laude, congratulations, from Columbia University and receiving his MFA in fiction and literature from Bennington. Back on stage, Shiloh was Benjamin Braddock in both first U.S. national tours, the one here and in Australia, of The Graduate with Jerry Hall as Mrs. Robinson. That's fabulous. I love her. Now, with his equally talented brother Shiloh Strong, Shiloh has been producing a series of critically acclaimed short films. Their short, The Irish Twins, which premiered at the 2008 Tribeca Film Festival, went on to win multiple jury and audience awards at festivals worldwide. That same year, the brothers created a spec commercial for Barack Obama's presidential bid that MoveOn.org awarded Funniest Ad and raised the money to take it to air. And it was the first political ad to appear on Comedy Central, which I just thought was fabulous. Their second short, The Dungeon Master, which, by the way, is hilarious, was a selection of the 2011 Tribeca Film Festival, where it won Best Short in the online competition. It also went on to win Best Comedy Short at the Sonoma, done a lot, Sonoma International Film Festival. And with their graphic novel, Blood Merchant, currently in pre-production, Dungeon Master has just screened at Comic-Con in San Diego, and we'll talk about that in just a sec, and is also an official selection at the Traverse City, Fantasia, and Rhode Island International Film Festivals. But that's not all. As well as Hardacre, DragonCon, Williamsburg, Williamstown, and #1 Real Bummershoot Film Festivals. I'm out of breath. That's the end of the interview. Shiloh, welcome.
Thank you. That was a great intro. That covered a lot. So
now, when you listen to something like that, I mean, you're just out there doing the work. When you listen to an intro like that, do you find yourself going, "Wow, I've done some stuff"?
Yeah, it's definitely a satisfying feeling just to hear it read back in a sort of list because, especially with the filmmaking stuff, because, it's not like my brother and I are making any money making these short films. So the only sort of satisfaction we get is going to festivals and meeting people that have seen the movies and like the movies and, so to hear how many we've played and the awards and whatnot sort of read in a list like that is really great because that's sort of all we get out of this process. So
a lot of people begin that way with no money to be made.
Right.
And the satisfaction you get is important. What does it feel like when people come up to you and say, "I saw Dungeon Master, and it is absolutely one of the funniest things I've ever seen," or that commercial for Barack Obama was brilliant? What does that stir in you and Shiloh?
It's great, I think for both of us too. I mean, because it's always with these projects, we're sort of just going out on a limb on our own. Raising, finding the money ourselves and finding our friends to work for free. And, we have like the spark of an idea and then it's just a matter of hustling. And so, that's why you do it, is to get that sort of feedback and to know that you've affected somebody or touched somebody. And it's also just great too, because we both started out as kid actors. And so it's sort of like I spent most of my 20s, focusing on other things, but still getting primarily recognized as a teen actor. And
you did.
So to have this experience where somebody's like, oh, I actually enjoy your filmmaking or your writing or, something else that I've done. Oh, it's great. It's really satisfying because that's sort of the direction that I've been moving in. So it's really nice to get feedback.
And it's also a great gift, I think, to be able to make films, which you do, which I think will go on and on and on. I Facebooked you or Twittered you the other day, and I said, I just want to be there when you get your first Oscar.
No.
I just want to be in the role.
I want to be there too. That's awesome.
I think you will be. I was going to say you make films and you do things like that, but it's also interesting that you're sort of multi-talented because you do put your toe in the political arena.
Yeah. Definitely. Not so much since, for the last couple of years, we really have been focusing on trying to build a filmmaking career. But without a doubt, like, especially, the thing with, I had this moment like years ago where, because a lot of my friends got into politics and I, especially as a college student, I was like, oh, I could make this my entire life and really, really go into it. But ultimately, I sort of decided, the best thing is to use my art and to become as successful as I can as an artist and then have a voice, to sort of contribute in whatever way I can. So my goal right now politically is definitely to sort of be as successful as I can as a filmmaker and then be able to use my powers for good if I can.
Well, you can. And actually, you said it better than I, and here I am, the interviewer. I think what happens is when you become as good as you guys are and you go on to do better and better things, you can use your power as a voice for, it doesn't even have to be a candidate. It can be a cause, which I think is a wonderful thing. And I think, I predict that's the direction you guys are heading in. I think you're going to do wonderful movies, and then I think people will pay attention to you.
Yeah.
So you were such little bitty kids when you started, and I'm always curious as how guys like you avoid falling into that trap of going on to the child stars gone bad kind of syndrome.
Right.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's weird though. I mean, I've had this thought, like, I don't know if this theory is true or not, but I feel like if you take any group of kids, like any group of high schoolers, freshmen, and you take 10 of them, I mean, the chances are one of them is going to turn to drugs or become an alcoholic or have some kind of bad experience. And I think with the child actor thing, I feel like a lot of it is just, what you end up hearing about. You don't hear about the child actors who totally go on and have normal lives and raise families and, whatever, are totally happy. We only hear about the kids who grow up and become completely screwed up because that's the story. I don't, because I've known a lot of child actors. I mean, obviously I grew up as one and around them, and I don't, there are some terrible, stories. And I mean, like, the worst for me personally is Jonathan Brandis, who is a kid who was sort of, he and I were on all the teen magazines at the same time. He was like the biggest teen magazine idol, but he never really made it as an actor. He just sort of made it as this teen idol figure, and he killed himself about 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was a real tragedy. And and I didn't know him very well. I knew him way back in the day when we used to do photo shoots together and all these sort of publicity things. And he's always seemed like a really nice together guy. But somebody like that, I mean, it's hard for me to say, oh, it's because he was an actor or because he was a teen idol. I think it was probably because he was a depressed guy to begin with, or had other issues. It's hard for me to, because I also know so many other people from that same era who are doing great. They may not be, huge names. They're not household famous people. They're not, they didn't become Jodie Foster, or, adult actors that we all know and love, but, they're fine. They're living a good life. So I just think that those stories are kind of uninteresting. The guy who quits acting and becomes a teacher somewhere, and I don't know. It just doesn't.
So we don't pay any attention to it.
No. So I don't know. I mean, but that being said, I also think I'm part of a generation of child actors who sort of had seen what had happened to the 70s and 80s generation.
Yeah.
So like we had parents. I mean, I remember growing up, it was always every parent on a set and every studio teacher on a set was always very mindful of keeping an eye out on kid actors in a way that I think in the 70s and 80s, there wasn't so much a culture of that. It was much more like, look at this, we can make money, throw our kids on TV, throw our kids in a movie. And those kids, I think, suffered more. By the time Boy Meets World started, and we were all kids on the show, all of us came from great families, and the parents were always around. Mm-hmm. The parents were all friends. Everybody was looking out for each other. I think that there was a culture of like, this potentially could be explosive, because we're talking about children making a lot of money and becoming very famous as teenagers. And so I think there was a sense of like, we need to be careful. And, they focused on school a lot with all of us, mm-hmm. I mean, Ben Savage went on to go to Stanford, and, they everybody was really careful to push us to be more than just actors and to be whole people, which I think was great and a great
crucial. Yeah. I have to say that I think that probably you and Ben in particular, well, the whole cast, I don't mean to single you out, but must have had great support, because I read somewhere, and you tell me if it's true, I think you and Ben are the only two who never missed an episode.
Yeah, that's true. 160 episodes or something, 150 something. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it was funny. I mean, because originally in the pilot, I only had like 2 lines, but, mm-hmm. The part just kept building and building. And then so much of the show, especially in the middle of the show, it just became about me and Ben. He worked probably, the hardest of any. I mean, he was in every single scene practically. But yeah, I mean, we were always together, which is funny to think about now. Like, we grew up working side by side, but then also we had 4 hours of school a day side by side,
mm-hmm.
With same teachers on set. So it's pretty remarkable that we came through it and are still friends and, still in touch.
And still happy and still successful. Did you think you'd really made it when you were on The Practice and Bones? Of course, I saw both of those because I love Cameron Manheim. Love Cameron Manheim. Isn't she the best? Yeah,
those were great shows. She was amazing. And that was the best part of The Practice, was working with her. She just couldn't be cooler and more down to earth. Yeah. And she's wonderful. Practice was great. And Bones was just fun. I got to play like a creepy, like pedophile.
You did.
So yeah, it's always good to play
Cameron
stuff.
Might be a great person for you to do one of your shorts with. I can see that.
Totally. Yeah, she's actually good friends with Eli Roth, who directed Cabin Fever. So I've run into her since I did The Practice. She's wonderful. She's great.
So do you call it the Strong Brothers Magic Show because it feels like you're making magic? Is that where the name came from?
No, it comes from when we were kids. We used to do talent shows at my local school, and Shiloh and I we became like a yearly tradition, the Strong Brothers doing something. I think we started off with a stunt show where like we just beat the crap out of each other, fakes beating the crap out of each other when we were really little. But we do these elaborate shows, and it sort of became a local tradition. And then one year we did a magic show, and it was terrible. I mean, in retrospect, we have it on video, and it's so awful and painful to watch because we're not good by any means. But, we were showmen, and we sort of, it became a thing. And what ended up happening is people started asking us to do birthday parties, like, performing for younger kids. I mean, we were only like, I think 8 and 9 ourselves, but we were performing for 6-year-old birthday parties.
Yes.
And we made these little buttons and these little necklaces that we would hand out that said Strong Brothers Magic Show. And they were just, these little handmade things. So it just became a thing. And then when we were shooting Irish Twins, our first short, we were like, we were just talking about how nothing's really changed. We still feel like we are scrambling to do a trick and pull something off and convince, somebody of, something that isn't real by making a movie. And
That's great.
So we called it, instead of a Strong Brothers film, we called it a Strong Brothers Magic Show. And it's funny because people really notice it in the credits, and, if I've commented after seeing the shorts, they're always like, what was that all about? And so it's kind of, it's our version of a Spike Lee joint.
Exactly. I want you always to call it that. And I will give you my car and my golden retriever puppy if you let me see that first tape one day of the two of you so horrible doing the magic show. Because that would be funny to see. Ryder Strong. Now there's a name. It's a real name, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my parents. It's I mean, I wish, it's so funny because my my parents, if I had been born a girl, they would have named me Sierra Strong. And my dad was like, oh, that sounds like a stripper name. But it never occurred to them that Ryder Strong is like the most pornographic name ever.
It is.
And it just, and it's something that didn't even occur to me until I was like 15. And then I remember I met some girl and she was like, ride her strong. You can't be serious. And I was like, oh, wow. I never thought about that.
Well, it's like that old joke, where people take the name of their first, how to figure out your porn
exactly.
name, the name of your first dog and the first street that you lived on.
Right.
If I were performing in a porn show with you, our direction of our interview is going very badly here, but now that I've started, I have to finish it. It would be starring Ryder Strong and Pepsi Emerson.
Nice. Pepsi Emerson's great. That's a great one.
Pepsi Emerson.
Oh.
Let's talk a little bit about you and Shiloh working together.
Yep.
One of the things I've read is that you've joked that you're the one who comes in and likes to geek it up a little bit, where he's visual and a little more serious. I like the idea of geeking it up.
Yeah, I mean, well, we both geek out in our own ways. I'm more like story and character, and Shiloh is definitely more visual and. But I think that's kind of an oversimplification. We really work together. I mean, we sort of make so many decisions side by side. It's not, more than anything on a set. It's like, oh, this has to be done, and then one of us will go do it. But it's not like, oh, you take care of that because that's your department. It's nothing like that. It's very much a sort of, fly by night experience. But we do. We have to make a lot of decisions ahead of time that I think some directors, working alone, they can sort of make it up as they go. Like we storyboard like crazy because we know that on a set we can't disagree with each other in front of a whole crew of people. Right. We can't sit there and endlessly debate things. So I think that we tend to do a little bit more prep work than most directors because there's two of us. That being said, I really think we kind of function as one person, which is great.
That's great to know, because when I interviewed Clint Eastwood many years ago, I said to him, what's the most important thing about being a director? And he said, when you walk on the stage, the first thing you have to know in the morning when you walk on the set is you're the only one who sets the tone. So you got to know what you're doing.
Yep, exactly.
And that's just what you said.
Yeah.
How is Shiloh in terms of health? Tell us what happened for people who might not know. I know your millions of fans know, but some might not know what happened, and where is he today?
Well, he had this crazy thing where he on the 3rd of July, he woke up shaking and in a fever, and we thought it was like a 24-hour flu, but ended up he ended up having an abscess on his liver, which is just kind of crazy and random, and they still don't really know where it came from. And it became a blood infection. So he was in the hospital for 9 days, and about 7 of them, they didn't know what was happening. And we were, they thought it was maybe West Nile virus, or, they were testing him for everything. And it turned out, fine. It was just a matter of, being on antibiotics for 9 days, like IV antibiotics, and then, just getting the blood infection under control. But in the process of that, they also found out that he has a aortic aneurysm on his heart. So he's going to be looking forward to some heart surgery. And we're not sure when he's going to do that, because it's one of those things. It's like, it's not an immediate life or death situation, but it is something that he's going to have to take care of. So yeah, facing a little mortality at the age of 33, which is just insane. It's one of those things. Like, I was there when the cardiologist met with him, and the guy's like, wow, we never see anybody your age coming in here with this. So
you must have been scared for a moment, if I can delve into
completely.
your
Oh my
life.
God, it was awful. I mean, it's like, it's my best friend. So
Sure.
It's tough, but yeah, at this point now, it's just making sure that we do the right thing as far as the heart surgery goes, and that it all goes well. That would be a disaster to lose Shiloh. I can't even imagine.
Well, you won't, because I see it. This is the way I live my life. I see him as well and whole and good. And remember, I'm going to be there when you two accept your Oscar. I'll be in a walker. You can't miss me. But I'll be there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Where's your favorite place? Since this is a travel website,
Right.
where has been your favorite place to shoot and then go eat afterwards where you say, that was the best meal I ever ate in my life? And it could be a diner.
You mean like after we
After
a day
you
of
shoot,
shooting?
you're tired, you're exhausted, and you just live for this one meal.
Wow. I'm trying to think. I mean, my favorite diner in LA actually closed, which is awful. But my second favorite diner is still open, and it's called Millie's. It's like a famous Silverlake diner that it's been around forever. It's one of these places. I guess the story is that like it's been saved twice by its customers buying it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it stayed open despite some lagging business over the years, but it's great. It's wonderful. And they have homemade biscuits, and it's just like the classic greasy spoon diner, but it's so delicious. And I've been eating there since I was a teenager. And now it's like right down the street from where I live. So that's definitely the best, like, you know, early morning, you've been shooting all night diner food, definitely.
I love to know where actors and crews go and eat and go have a drink afterwards. It's always so interesting to me.
Well, there's bar in LA. There's two bars. There's one called Residuals, which I love. I've actually only been there a couple times, but I just love the story behind it. It's a bar in the Valley, and you go in there, and you know, because actors always get these residual checked for like, you know, commercials or whatever. And if you get a residual check for less than $1, which happens a lot, you get like 37-cent check or an 82-cent check, and you bring it in there, they'll give you a free drink if you give them the check. I think that's brilliant because there's so many. I mean, we all have had this experience where we get these checks from SAG. We're like, oh, what did I get a residual for? And you open it up, and it's like less than the stamp that they sent it to you. So, so I think that's brilliant. But the real place there's a bar called the Drawing Room, and it's this dirty, dirty dive bar. And I guess they open up at like 6 a.m, pretty much for, you know, film crews to show up like after they're shooting all night and have a drink before they go to bed at 8 a.m. That's like the local spot, and they have a great karaoke night too. It's a fun little dive bar.
I love it.
Yeah.
Two of my best answers. So looking at your ConciergeQ, what is the most creative, spiritual, or emotional place in Los Angeles? Your front porch.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We have this little, you know, we live in this little bungalow up in the hills in Silverlake. And yeah, I mean, I would just have this great view. And I mean, I'm overlooking Griffith Park, the Hollywood sign, the Church of Scientology. I can sort of see all of Hollywood right below me. And it's great. And then there's a clear view of the sky, so I can actually see a couple stars every once in a while. But it's just a wonderful. It's why, I mean, because our place is actually pretty small, and it's like I should move, but I just love the location too much and the view from the porch.
No, you shouldn't move. It sounds too cool.
Yeah.
Your favorite outdoor activity in Los Angeles? Did you actually say biking in one of the few bike lanes in LA?
Yeah, that's
You're crazy.
true.
You're absolutely nuts.
Well, it's in our neighborhood. It's like, it's actually, I mean, there's only a few, you know, LA is, you know, all freeways. So we have one of the few bike lanes, and it connects me from my place to Shiloh's. I can go right to downtown to his place. So it's only like, you know, a 15-minute bike ride. So it's really, it's the only place in LA you can ride bikes. You can't, I mean, I guess on the west side you can out by the beach, but on the east side where I'm at, it's the only, you know, where you can feel somewhat safe.
Yes, that's the operative word, my love.
Yeah.
What is your favorite sound or noise in Los Angeles?
What did I put? Did I actually answer this?
Yes, you did. You said music from one of the many street fairs that happens every year.
Yes, this is true. There's like right down the street from us, there's Silverlake Jubilee, which happened like 2 months ago. And then Sunset Junction is a very famous music festival that goes on right on our street, like walking distance from us. And it's fun because the whole neighborhood just shuts down and becomes a walking neighborhood. But what's great about it is it's not even like the fact that there's all these musicians and bands playing, out in the open, but that everybody that lives in my neighborhood is a musician too. So like one of the first month that we moved in here, our neighbors, we came home and our neighbors were having a full-on jam session right,
cool.
in there. And it was so much fun. We just sort of joined in and hung out, and everybody is so talented. It's like it's just one of those neighborhoods, where everybody's an artist, and particularly for music, it's a real thriving music community, which is pretty rare in LA.
One of the questions asked about the music that best reflects Los Angeles, and I was so intrigued that you wrote obscurer than thou indie rock. Yeah. So what kind of bands are they? What do you mean?
I don't know. I just feel like, I was really making a comment on my neighborhood because this neighborhood, Silverlake, is sort of known as this like hipster, cool kid neighborhood. And, I just feel like if it's some band that no one has ever heard of, that's your favorite band. Like that's all everybody ever says. It's like, oh, there's, so it's just a very like, it's just one of those, everybody's a music aficionado and they have better taste than you and they have very obscure tastes you've never heard of. But in general, it's definitely this is where Beck came from. This is all, Silver Lake was big in the 90s. It's like a music scene and it's sort of maintained that air. And so like, I wouldn't even, I have very mainstream music taste. So I wouldn't even begin to know
the bands
that might are being listened to in my neighborhood. Really,
I live in Sun Valley, Idaho, and you're welcome to come visit. I'd like to see your shows here at our little theaters. They seat more than you know, and you'd have a great audience here. But if I ever moved back to Los Angeles, I think I would live in Silver Lake because it's so walkable, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Just
that?
That's
what's so nice about it. Is like it's kind of the only. It's like this and Venice are the only two neighborhoods in Los Angeles where people can actually walk from their house to restaurants and bars, and I love it. That's why I live here.
Yeah, that's why you live there. That's why you'll stay. Although you'll be doing some traveling, my friend. I'll see you at all sorts of film festivals. Ryder, thank you so much for this huge amount of time you've given us on ConciergeQ.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You are just absolutely delightful.
Thank you. You're great too. This has been a great interview.
I've just loved talking to you, and I hope I'll talk to you again.
All right. Sounds good.
So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time. And please remember, you can learn even more about Ryder Strong and his wonderful insider tips for Los Angeles, for Silver Lake, California. All of this on ConciergeQ.com. And be sure to check out other LA travel cues from Jim O'Gorman, who is Avril Lavigne's guitar player and musical director. Jim's interview was just great. Nia Peoples from Pretty Little Liars and Fame and chart topper Andy Grammer, just to name a few. In addition, you can find out a lot more about Ryder Strong, his brother Shiloh, and their production company's films at www.strongbrothersmagicshow.com. ConciergeQ invites you to discover more great programming at everydayopera.com as well. I'm Chantal, and we'll see you next time on Concierge Conversations.